Hey, Gretchen,
Hey, how's it going?
look who's here.
Hey, I'm just saying hi really quick.
Hi.
Good to see
Good
you.
to see you guys.
So, hello, Gretchen Ronnevik. Welcome to St. John's. Excited to have you here for Advent Brunch. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am a wife and a mom here in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. We live on a farm where my husband works. And yeah, I am also an author and a speaker. So I love to travel places and speak with people, share the good news of Christ. And yeah, at this event, I believe we're going to make it a little bit more Advent focused. I'm
Mhm.
hoping to talk a bit on the Magnificat
Great.
and should be fun.
So, tell me, okay, so who's your family? And I've met them before, but for people here at St. John's, tell us about who your husband and kids are.
Yeah, so my husband is Knut, and my kids are Celia, David, Elias, Solveig, Ingrid, and Bjorn. We have six kids. So Knut, he is a fourth generation farmer.
Neat.
Um, he farms corn and soybeans up here, and he's actually, I like to tell people he's the first generation on the farm, he and his cousin, to not speak Norwegian in the fields.
Huh.
His all the generations before them spoke at Norwegian when they were at work at the field,
Wow.
and so that was not something that unfortunately was passed down from his parents, and so we're the English speaking Ronneviks in
Oh.
farming.
Yeah, say more about your speech that day. Can you tell us about what will be the topic of your program that day?
We're going to be talking a little bit about God using the voice of Mary and using um, the tenderness that God has toward her and all that he had called her to. I'm hoping to find some encouragement that um, in how God used her and God cared for her.
That's great. You've written a book. Can you tell us what that book is and what that book is about?
Yeah, my book is Ragged: Spiritual Disciplines for the Spiritually Exhausted, and that came out in 2021. And so I speak most often about spiritual disciplines at various women's retreats and things like that. I also have a book coming out next year on Katie Luther, Martin Luther's wife.
Hmm, neat.
That's a middle grade reader biography there. And working on another book that it hasn't been turned in yet on the patience of God and what it means that God is patient.
Wow.
And
Have you ever met anyone who's read your book and given you feedback or said, "Oh, that was really helpful for me"? Or I mean, I suppose you encounter people when you're out speaking who have
oh,
read it and
all the time. I was speaking out of an event down in Alabama, and a 70-year-old man came up to me who had read my book, and he had driven hours in to the church to just thank me. I had written a chapter on lament
hmm,
and the importance of grieving and grieving together. And um, he had said his wife had been grieving a loss. And they were reading my book together, and they came across the chapter in lament, and he was able to grieve with her instead of move her just straight past her grief. And he just had tears in his eyes.
hmm.
And he was just like, you changed my whole relationship here. You hear stories like that where you're just like, God, I had no idea you were going to take my words and do something like that.
Yeah.
And that has been what has struck me and kept me going, because I think
Hmm.
a lot of times people come and invite me to speak on parenting or mothering or marriage or things that affect people, and or spiritual disciplines of how can we do all of this better.
Yeah.
And I really only have one message, and that's Christ crucified for the forgiveness of sins, because all of these things we do imperfectly and we wish we could do better. But that posture of falling on grace, I think that's the only hope I have to give.
Yeah. Do you have a definition of the word grace? Is there one definition that you tend to use for that word, grace?
Probably, the definition I learned was unmerited favor. I tend to associate it a lot more with um, forgiveness, forgiveness that we don't deserve, unconditional love that we don't deserve. Um, just the very idea of Christ for us, that He is put Himself for us, is one of those things that the older I get, the more astounded I am by it. And I remember talking to my grandma years ago before she died, and she had lost all of her sight, and she was living in a nursing home, and she was, we used to joke growing up that my grandma was all law and my grandpa was all gospel, because she was kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
And but once she lost her sight, she just would have tears in her eyes all the time of just, God was so faithful. I messed up so many things and God was so faithful.
Yeah.
And I look at that, and each year and each birthday that I get older, I'm just like, I totally get it. By the time I'm 80 years old, I'm probably gonna be crying all the time too, because
Yeah.
it means more every single year.
Yeah.
That He is still faithful,
Hmm.
and He's still faithful this year and the next year.
Yeah.
Well, St. John's, I hope that you all enjoy coming to this brunch, and I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Great. Well, thank you.